What's up, everybody?
Welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, episode 158. Today we are switching back into true crime mode, and we are going to be talking about the disappearance of Phoenix Coldon. And this case is, wow, incredibly frustrating, confusing, and I really just don't know what to think after looking into it. I'm sure a lot of you are going to feel the same way as us.
Yeah, there's lots of theories about what happened to her. It's one of those cases where somebody just seemingly vanishes off the face of the earth. Like you just have no idea, where they went or
Leaves
what happened to
everything.
them. And yeah, it's one of those just true mysteries.
These are the most frustrating.
They really are. And this one is another case that really got virtually no attention in the media. I mean, very, very little news coverage, very little investigation by the police. And it's just kind of been stagnant. Oxygen, the network, actually did a 2-part series on it where, if you've ever watched the Oxygen shows, I don't know if you're a fan of those or not, but they kind of like have 2 people go and take another look at it, and they talk to a bunch of people and basically come to the same conclusion at the end.
Yeah.
So,
well, some of these series, Josh and I get a little annoyed by them, some of them, because sometimes there's just not enough information to make them, and they're just like drawing it out for their own financial gain, really.
Yeah.
And it's kind of frustrating because the details of her case, I felt like were a little lost in the documentary. That's just how I personally felt. I felt like I got better information just online than I did from theirs.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they are giving some airtime to the family and to the case and for Phoenix, and that's great.
That's great. But I'm frustrated also because they have a lot of material that they've copyrighted and we are not able to use it. And I think when there's a disappearance, an active disappearance where people need to know this information, and there's important footage in this case that should be out to the public. I believe the family should
100%.
have 100% access to put this wherever they want, but we can't use it because we'll get copyrighted and the episode could be taken down off YouTube. So it's just, I'm a little annoyed with the production of that series. I'm sure the family felt it helpful, but I'm sure they still feel the same way.
Yeah.
They should have access to everything at the end of the day. I don't think it should be the same as signing a reality TV show or something.
Right,
You're not signing your life away in this situation when the information is so vital to be out there and they're just kind of hoarding it. It just rubs me the wrong way. I don't like it.
Yeah, it seems like sometimes these networks are kind of like actively looking for families who are kind of at like the end of the road as far as what they can do for their case. And they're just kind of like willing to do anything at this point. And therefore they end up giving up, tons of information, records, files, clips, videos, photos to the networks. And then the networks lock it all down so that you're forced to go to their platform to watch, the episode or whatever on the case when
they have the exclusive.
Yeah, it's just like, it's so stupid because when it comes to true crime, we should all be sharing information. We should all be sharing footage. And like, if your goal is to try and help the families, which is what they claim they're trying to do, is help the family find Phoenix. Yeah. And yet no one else can have access to, there's one particular clip in this case that it is absolutely crucial to really understanding Phoenix and who she was and where she was at in her life. And it's a selfie video that she took of herself. And yet that's nowhere to be found online. You can't find it anywhere but in this series, which is super frustrating.
I just think that's just greedy beyond to just be claiming up content like that from families and be like, we own this, we own that. And like, there's been so many times over the years where we've tried to put in important court footage or footage that I know belongs to families, and people have claimed us for it at the end of the day. It's so frustrating. And recently I was working on a case with a family, and they had to put it on hold working with me because a network contacted them and was like, hey, we'll give you a TV thing, but if you do, you have to stop putting it anywhere else. You can't share anything, no YouTubers. It's terrible. And like, they're not in it for the right reasons at all. And I think I'm not a fan.
It's really hard because there's like this fine line between where you're actually helping a case and a family and you're just profiting from the entertainment value of the story. Because in this particular case of Phoenix Coldon, it's an absolutely crazy story with lots of twists and turns and just so many possibilities with it. And so they obviously saw an opportunity here to make a dramatized, with these networks too, they go and do these reenactments of things.
I can't stand it, man. It makes my blood boil. I have to leave the room during reenactments. It's annoying.
And it's like, I get you're trying to reenact what happened and help put a visual to things, but at the same time, it just seems like cheesy and just kind of like, you're trying to take a very real tragedy and story and make it like entertainment movie production.
Right. So, like the information could have been condensed into, I thought, one part that could have been clear for people to have, that wasn't chasing all these different dead ends that don't even make sense. I don't know. Whatever. We're going on and on about it. We should just get into the case.
Yeah, we'll get into it. So this episode of Mile High Podcast is actually brought to you by Curology, Stamps.com, Tushy, Quip, and Cat Person. And also, Kendall's wearing one of our new items that we dropped on our 420 collection.
Yep.
It honestly looks amazing. I like it. It's our Steely logo tee, which is really cool. Tie-dye.
It's a colorful version of the one that rainbow. We put out last year. And yeah, you guys sold this out yesterday. Well, when this episode goes live, it'll be sometime. But you sold it out on 420. So there were so many requests to bring it back that day that we ended up just putting it up as pre-sale instead, which is basically like back order. So if you want it, you can still get your hands on it. I know people were really excited about the tie-dye. We love tie-dye too. It's like all I wear these days.
Well, it's all the rage these days.
It's all really the rage.
Come back. As it should be.
You heard it from Josh first. Yeah. All the rage.
It is all the rage. I mean, everybody's wearing tie-dye these days. From comedians to musicians to
comedians.
Oh yeah, comedians are making tie-dye merch. Everybody's making tie-dye merch these days.
I love it. Bring back the tie-dye.
It's cool. It feels sometimes like we're going back in time, like with our fashion and just the way people dress. But anyways, that's kind of unrelated to just an interesting thought in my head. But
yeah, I love how this one turned out though. I've been living in this t-shirt all week.
It looks really good.
And we also have these tumblers too.
Oh yeah, these are really cool. You guys have asked for tumblers for a long time. We finally have them.
And it's kind of duochrome, purple, blue. Is duochrome the right word, or is that like a makeup term?
Honestly, I don't know. It's kind of give me hollow duo, but I don't think it's actually hollow. It's really cool.
It's kind of iridescent.
It's iridescent.
It turned out good. I'm super happy with it. We have a couple other items too. I'm not sure what will be left as far as accessories. That's kind of limited.
So go check it out.
Go see what's left.
MileHigherMerch.com. Also, if you guys haven't checked out our CBD, that's higherlevelwellness.com. But
all right,
let's go ahead and get into the case of Phoenix Coldon, because this is just absolutely crazy one.
Okay, so Phoenix Lucille Coldon. She was born May 23rd, 1988 in California. And she's a stunningly beautiful girl.
She is.
She was raised by her parents, Goldia and Lawrence Coldon, in the suburbs of St. Louis, Missouri. Phoenix was known as someone who could get along with anyone. She could make friends easily. She had a bright, beautiful smile and was going far in life. She was a very high achiever. She was known to be very polite and well-spoken and very, very smart. And growing up, Phoenix was very involved in church. Her and her family took church very seriously, and they went every single Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, they were very devoted to their faith and still are.
Yep. And from a young age, she was in the choir at church. And in general, she just loved music. She played several different instruments, guitar, violin, piano, and she was also a regional fencing champion.
Yeah, she actually, if you've ever been to church before at a service where they have the bell choir, where they're like ringing the bells together.
Oh, is that what it is? No, I didn't know.
Yeah, so she was in the bell choirs. Oh. I don't think she was singing. I think she was just played the bells.
I thought it was like the name of the choir, the bell choir, but that makes sense. Bell choir.
They wear little gloves and you like ring the bells. At my church, it was always like kids. It was always like the kids' bell choir at Christmas. And they'd be like,
oh,
I was never in it because
clearly
I was too good for that.
But she was very talented musically and just, overall was excelling in pretty much everything that she did. And like I mentioned, she was a regional fencing champion, which is really badass. You don't hear of fencing very often,
No.
How cool.
It does look fun, though.
It reminds me of The Parent Trap. It's like all I've seen as far as fencing goes.
Funny.
So Phoenix was homeschooled her entire life, all the way through high school.
Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah. Well,
if you know anything about my background, I grew up very religious. I can relate a lot to Phoenix in this story and just like how she was raised. my parents wanted to homeschool my brother and I.
They did.
Tried to many times, but we never worked down with it because we knew what came along with it, because we went to church with a lot of homeschool kids. And homeschool kids just tend to be very, very sheltered. And, you know, because in that type of environment, I mean, your parents literally control your world. They control who you see, what you do every day, what you learn about. And so, you know, you're very, very sheltered and naive about everything, really.
And I mean, some people do homeschooling a different way,
right? And
really get their kids out there, and it's a completely different experience.
Exactly.
But you're talking about
religious homeschooling specifically.
Parents like Phoenix's parents,
right. Obviously, there's parents that do it right, but a lot of religious homeschool, you know, situations are very sheltered, and they do control everything.
Yeah, and that's how she felt. She felt like she was living kind of in a bubble, you know, protected from anyone that her parents thought would be a bad influence on her. They controlled what she did, who she hung out with, where she spent her time, how she, I mean, obviously they were all over her grades and her activities as well, making sure she was the best she could possibly be. One
of the things that you have to, I'm trying to paint a picture for people that didn't grow up religious or grow up with religious parents, is that you, in this type of environment, your parents, you know, kind of preach to you that, well, God and the Bible want us to take care of you and protect you from the world, right? Yeah. You know, I used to use this term with you, like people of the world.
Yeah, remember?
You were a person of the world, and my parents warned me. Said, "Be careful of that girl of the world." You know,
girl, that's really funny.
I just want to say that religious parents, you know, when they create this kind of environment, it's coming from a good place. And when I'm talking about this, I don't mean to sound like pessimistic about it or negative about it, but like most parents are generally coming from a good place. They want to protect you from the dangers of the world and the people of the world. And, you know, you want to fill your life with people of Christ and people of the church, and, you know, kind of keep you in that bubble of other like-minded people.
And somewhat they're doing it out of fear too, you know, and maybe it's been taught to them generationally. Maybe their parents raised them the same way, to be scared, to basically that if you don't do these things and you don't control your child, that they're going to end up as a person of the world. Right.
Which I get to some extent that, you know, this is a good thing to do, but at the same time, by sheltering and keeping your child in a bubble, you are preventing their development in the real world, you know, in the world outside of the bubble
that eventually they're going to be in.
Exactly. And that was the issue with Phoenix, is that she grew up in this bubble. So, you know, it was very difficult to transition to outside of the bubble, what life was like.
So after high school, she enrolled in the University of Missouri in St. Louis, and her parents rented an apartment near campus and paid for it. Her mom was on the lease. So the summer before her junior year, she moved back in with her parents. They lived on Country Brook Drive in Spanish Lake, Missouri, which is about a half an hour from St. Louis. While she was in college, she had kind of put fencing on hold. And a few weeks before Christmas in 2011, she started going back to it and seemed to be really enjoying it again. She was talking to her fencing instructor about getting private lessons and possibly even entering some competitions. So that brings us to Sunday, December 18th, 2011. A week before Christmas, Phoenix was 23 years old. And that day she went to church with her mom, as she usually does on Sundays. They went to the 11 o'clock service and did some shopping before they all headed home. And then early that afternoon, Goldia saw Phoenix step outside. This wasn't unusual. She often would sit in her SUV to make phone calls, which tells us that she probably had some things going on that she may not have wanted Goldia to know about.
She was sitting in her car in the driveway, and the way our house is made, when I passed the front windows, I could see the back of the car in the driveway, and I thought she was probably just sitting out there talking on the phone as she normally does. Then I think I went in my room or in the basement. I did not see her leave. Her dad saw her leave.
All right. Well, Lawrence, you saw her pull away and back out of the driveway and drive off? Okay.
Yes,
so she just drove off.
Yeah, she had been in the back of the house shooting hoops. And she came home, she came in the house, put the basketball away, and went and sat in her vehicle. And approximately 3 p.m., she backed out of the driveway and she drove off.
Lawrence saw her pull out of the driveway around 3 o'clock. He assumed that she was going to the store around the corner or possibly to a friend's house. So around midnight, her parents started to get worried because Phoenix wasn't home yet. And this was unlike her. So the next morning, they started calling her friends and relatives to see if anyone else had heard from her. They contacted police as well to report her missing. Her mom said that Phoenix had walked out of the house with conviction. She had never seen her daughter like that before, and she felt really worried for her. Yeah, with conviction.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she clearly noticed that something was up with her. Like she was not in her normal state of mind that they were used to seeing her in. Mm-hmm. And her parents made it very clear that, she never didn't just like come home like that. As far as her parents knew, Phoenix never was out all night or, didn't tell them where she was or when she was going to be home. So this was very, very strange that they hadn't heard from her and she still wasn't home at this point.
Her parents told police that she was driving a 1998 black Chevy Blazer that was registered to her mom, Goldia, and they ran plates through their system and they did not find anything.
So when they called the police, an officer came over and, they're explaining, this is unlike my daughter. She's not here. I want to file a missing persons report. And the officer was like, oh, well, she's of age. We don't need to do that. She's probably just out with friends or something.
Yeah, actually, I did find a clip that I believe we can play of her mom talking about this.
We gave him all the information and he asked for her birth date. I said, May 23rd, 1988. That's her birthday. He stopped writing. 1988? He did. I could tell he was doing some mental calculations. It was hurting him really bad. So I told the officer, I think you need to make a report. Our daughter, something's wrong. She hasn't called home. So he went out to his car and he ran. Now listen carefully now. He ran her plates. Nothing showed up. So he said he was going to make a report. Well, I had a feeling that he wouldn't. So I called neighbors and I talked to someone there and she told me what to do. She says, Mrs. Coldon, what I want you to do is call back and ask for another officer. And if you don't want another officer, ask for a sergeant to come out. So the next day, another officer, now we're at December 20th now. Another officer came out. She apologized for the previous officer, and I told her, you don't need to apologize when you have done nothing. He's the one who needs to apologize. And I doubt that I will ever get an apology for him because he is stupid. Okay? So she made the report.
So that clearly tells you how they felt about the first officer that came that day. They basically were like, she's too old for this. She can just leave. What are you worried about? She'd probably just left. Which is so irritating because obviously, yes, as an adult, you can leave. Anyone can leave. But that doesn't mean that she did. To just automatically assume that is just the most lazy thing. And it happens probably every day all over this country that people get told these things like, oh, they're too old. Oh, you have to wait longer. It's always some bullshit because they don't even want to take the time to start truly looking when that's the most important time. Right now, in a disappearance, you've got to move quick. Your chances of finding this person are going to lower and lower by the hour.
Right.
How frustrating. And I mean, luckily her parents knew that this was bullshit from the beginning and were like, got someone else. They actually went and requested someone else. But it's disappointing to hear things like this. You'd think that people that are in this field would be there because they care. You would hope that police officers care. And obviously some do, but it's clear that some just don't.
Yeah, and I think it's also just a lack of training too, a lack of knowledge probably. I mean, I don't think there's that much training in academy and things like that for patrol officers regarding missing persons. Unless that person is, there's a reason for them to be in imminent danger or they're a child or disabled or something like that for them to go and start looking. But if it's a, normal, healthy adult that's over 18, then...
But we have an epidemic of missing people in this country. You'd think it would be one of the top things that you do in training.
You would think. And I just pulled stats on that, and it's over 600,000 people that are reported missing every year.
It's fucking insane.
In the United States. So, I mean, that's a lot of people. And I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I agree that I think it's baffling that we know about this epidemic of, missing persons and how many of those people end up, at the hands of foul play or other things, that there's not a better system. Like there should be, why hasn't there been like a a system that has been implemented and training been implemented for at least take a report and put out, try to make contact with, like, this is my thing is like, you can call the police and say, I want to do a welfare check on somebody, right? You can be like, hey, can you send an officer over there? We haven't heard from them. Do a welfare check on them. But yet we can't like have them issue a welfare check for somebody that could be in danger, but is, over the age 18 that is missing, like, wouldn't it make sense for them to have a similar type of protocol to follow if a parent's like, my child lives with me and this is completely out of, like, they don't, it's almost like they can't take that seriously at all.
The decision to start the process should be made by the family, not by the officers. Who's going to know them best? The family, the friends. Like, they shouldn't just be making these generalizations. Oh, they probably this, they probably that, or whatever. They're old enough to just leave.
Right.
It's just stupid.
Yeah. It's absolutely.
It truly makes no sense, because obviously a huge reason why people go missing is because they end up in human trafficking a lot of the time. And we're going to be looking at that as a possibility for this case. And these people, these human traffickers, they're professionals and they move quick. Like, you have minutes in these situations. And to hear people bullshitting around like this, it's just disappointing. It's sad. It makes me scared that if something were to happen to me, like, if something we should all be scared if this is the way that cases are treated. And this happens so often.
I know. It's absolutely insane. So going back to the timeline. So Phoenix gets in her car. She leaves. It seems like there's a lot of conflicting reports about exact times and everything.
Yeah.
But we believe it was around 3:00 that she left her parents' house. But her best friend's mom reported seeing Coldon, who says she spoke with her briefly driving out of the neighborhood around 4:30 or 4:45 p.m. She actually saw her leave. So again, regardless of whether or not, we again don't know the exact timeline and what is the exact timeline for Phoenix, a person found the Chevy Blazer she was driving abandoned in the middle of the road and called the police at 5:27 p.m. And an officer was dispatched a minute later and arrived on the scene at 5:42 p.m. according to the police report. So her vehicle was in the middle of St. Clair Avenue, which is in a crime-ridden area of East St. Louis, Illinois. Because if you've ever looked at St. Louis before, it's split. You can get between the two states in a matter of, 10, 20 minutes or so. And this was about a 30-minute drive from Phoenix's house. Her vehicle is literally abandoned in the middle of a traffic lane. An East St. Louis police officer, Kendall Perry, filed out a police report indicating that the car had been abandoned. And according to the officer that found Phoenix's abandoned vehicle, there is a lot of conflicting reports, and even the parents had heard, and this was just a rumor, I guess, or something that they caught word of from somebody, that it was on still, the driver door was open, and it was running and everything, but that wasn't true. According to the police officer that actually responded to this car, it was off, closed, but just sitting in the middle of the road pretty much, which is very, very odd.
Seems to be still kind of some question about that.
Yeah, how will we ever really know? I guess according to the police report, that was the case.
Right.
So to the police officer, he just was like, looks like somebody abandoned their vehicle. Maybe it ran out of gas or something. So they left. They just left the vehicle there and went to go get gas or something. So he ended up having a tow truck come and tow Phoenix's vehicle to an impound lot in Illinois. The officer did happen to look inside the vehicle, and according to him, there wasn't anything that, kind of looked out of the ordinary. There was a few small items inside, like a pen, and he's reported not seeing a purse or anything else that could identify the owner. So, he made sure that the vehicle wasn't stolen and, had it towed. He also entered the vehicle into a nationwide system so that it would come up if the vehicle is reported stolen. However, there was no process for linking a vehicle with a missing person case, and I don't think there is still to this day. Even though this vehicle is registered to Phoenix's mother, Goldia, she was never notified that it had been impounded. And it actually wasn't linked to Phoenix's case until January 2nd, 2012, nearly 2 weeks after she disappeared, when a close family friend was searching for the vehicle, finally found it in the impound lot. And here's actually a clip of Lawrence explaining that whole experience.
And I saw Phoenix when she backed out of the driveway and headed out of the subdivision. And
to my mind at the time, it was just she was going around to the store or maybe to a friend's house. It was unlike her not to say anything when she was leaving home. So, but I didn't think too much of it at the time when the truck was finally.
The truck was found the same day.
Well,
think about it.
They didn't know that, and we didn't know it either.
So the fact that her vehicle was found abandoned literally a few hours after she left their house, yet the family had no clue about it, is very troubling, right?
Yeah.
And it's obviously, connected to her being missing. Obviously, no one knew that, but 2 weeks pass since this all happens. And that's
unacceptable.
That's enough time for, something bad to happen and for her to even be taken somewhere completely different,
And meanwhile, every hour of every day, they're freaking out, trying to grasp onto any clue or anything that can tell them where she is. And they have the fucking car.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just sitting in an impound lot.
It's so sad to think that people actually have to go through this.
Yeah. And what's also interesting to note is that the vehicle was found kind of on a side road right next to I-70, one of the major highways here in the U.S.
Yep.
And it's called the sex trafficking highway. And St. Louis is actually in the top 10 hotspots for sex trafficking in the country, if not in the top 5.
It is. And yeah, your mind goes to that when you hear of a car being parked so close to an interstate, especially one like this that's actually known.
Right.
Because that's how they get people out of there quick, as minimal off roads as they can.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they don't have to go very far to then get on a highway where they can go 75 miles an hour and be in another state in a matter of,
Plus there's less cameras too.
That's true.
You're not going past stores and things like that.
Right. You're not. Exactly.
There's a less possibility. And they probably, if she was human trafficked, it's possible she was sought out because of her race, because people in human trafficking will go for people of color because they know that the police just statistically do less. And there's less of a chance that they're going to come back, come at you as hard as they would maybe if it was a white person. I mean, it's just true when it comes to human trafficking. The numbers are outrageously swayed that way.
Yeah. And I think it has to do with, economics as well. Like you go for, you target somebody from a lower income family that may not have the resources either to go after, something like that.
Yeah. In some cases, maybe not this one, but yeah.
So the next logical step was to have the police's crime scene unit come out to the impound lot in order to process the vehicle. And when police went out there, they basically took photos, took inventory of what was found inside. And they did conclude that it was Phoenix's SUV, which they already knew, but they didn't see any indication of a robbery or any sort of violent attack. I mean, there was no evidence from what they could see inside of it. Also, the problem with it sitting for 2 weeks is that a lot of that DNA evidence is going to deteriorate if there was any in the first place, or just any sort of evidence is just, going to be a lot harder to obtain after that much time has passed. I mean, that's why they always say the first 48 hours are so crucial in a case, missing persons case, because after 48 hours, I mean, you can be long gone and, it's going to be very difficult for anybody to find you.
It's true.
Investigators also kept a lot of the details about this case from the public and even from the family. And Phoenix's parents were given everything they found in the SUV, but most of it had been thrown in the back. And the most significant thing they found was a letter from a collection agency for a cell phone. Phoenix was on her parents' family plan with T-Mobile, but this letter was for an entirely different phone. So that's pretty big news to find out that your daughter has a second cell phone that they had no clue about that she was using.
Yeah, that would be pretty shocking. I'm sure for them, they were blown away by that.
That leads you to believe that, she's hiding something, or, she might be living a double life or trying to avoid,
She could have a whole secret life.
Because, when you're on your family plan, your parents can pull your records whenever they want. They can, figure out who you're talking to and what you're messaging and things like that. So she wanted to keep whoever she was talking to on this other phone on the DL.
Yeah.
So that's when we'll kind of start talking about Phoenix's possible double life. Now, before we get into that, we were going to take a quick ad break and we'll be right back. Brush, floss, chew gum? Gum is the unsung hero when it comes to better oral health. The American Dental Association recommends chewing sugar-free gum for 20 minutes after meals. And it was only a few short years ago that Quip reinvented the toothbrush for the modern age. Seriously, the best toothbrush on the planet. They've done it again, this time for chewing gum. And well, they've launched a new gum that's actually good for your oral health. And it comes with a dispenser that'll remind you of the one-click candy you loved as a kid. Literally, the dispenser is all metal. It's super great because it actually shoots the gum pieces out of it. And Quip's gum is some of the best sugar-free gum I've ever tasted. And I'm not just saying that. It's sleek and metal, and it goes along with their toothbrushes. It's literally the Tesla of gum dispensers. Quip's gum can also help prevent cavities and freshen breath when chewed for 20 minutes after eating. It's sugar-free and has tooth-friendly xylitol with 0 calories. And to satisfy your taste buds, Quip added a long-lasting mint flavor. Crunchy, tri-layer design. The slim, travel-ready dispenser comes in 5 colors, metal or plastic, and it helps packs and protect those 10 gum pieces at all times, and it fits in just about anywhere. Plus, you can get a gum refill plan with Quip, and you can also give it as a gift that keeps on giving year-round. They also have a customizable subscription that lets you chew and share at your own pace. Plus, the more you buy, the more you save with bulk discounts on extra gum packs. So it's not a substitute for brushing and flossing, but this is a great support for your oral health. And right now, if you go to getquip.com/milehigher, you'll get a free plastic dispenser with any refill plan. That's a free dispenser at getquip.com/milehigher. GETQUIP.com/milehigher. Quip is the only brand I trust for my oral health. And now you can find the Quip electric toothbrush, refillable floss, and more in the oral care aisle at your local Walmart. Quip is truly the good habits company.
So your mom wiped your ass for years, and now you can return the favor with a perfect gift for mom for Mother's Day from Hello Tushy. You can bring your mama into the future with a brand new Hello Tushy 3.0 modern bidet attachment, which is stylish, eco-friendly, easy to install, and will help her from flushing her retirement down the toilet in toilet paper costs. The Hello Tushy 3.0 cleans like a champ, but doesn't stop there because it cleans itself with the Smart Spray automatic self-cleaning nozzle. And anyone can put this shit together, even your parents. Yes, yours. Because the Hello Tushy 3.0 attaches to their existing toilet with no electricity, no extra plumbing, or no tech support. And it cuts down on toilet paper use by 80%. So the Hello Tushy bidet pays for itself in just a few months. Plus, every Hello Tushy bidet attachment comes with a 60-day risk-free guarantee and a 12-month warranty. And if mom's already got the Tushy on her pot, you can blow her away with an upgrade to the new Hello Tushy 3.0. If she's new to the revolution, you can have her join millions of us who are happy Hello Tushy customers. Give her the gift of clean by going to hellotushy.com/milehigher to get 10% off plus free shipping. This is a special offer for our listeners. Just go to hellotushy.com/milehigher for 10% off. That's hellotushy.com/milehigher.
Are you still going to the post office, or are you still paying for full price for your postage? Well, thanks to Stamps.com, you don't have to anymore. You can mail and ship anytime, anywhere from your computer, send letters, ship packages, and pay less. They have discounted rates from USPS and UPS. I absolutely love Stamps.com. We use Stamps.com for our business, higher love, wellness, and they truly have saved me so much money. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars on postage already. Plus, I can print all the postage right from our warehouse and have everything shipped ready to go for USPS to come pick it up at the end of the day. They truly make it super simple. I don't have to go wait in line at the post office or drive there or try to balance 20 packages on top of each other. Stamps makes it super easy, and they save me 40% off post office rates and up to 66% off UPS shipping rates. Best of all, it can all be done 24/7 for any letter, any package, in any class of mail, and anywhere I want to send it. Stamps.com is a no-brainer for me and for you. It saves you time and money, and it's no wonder that my business uses it along with a million other small businesses. So stop wasting time going to the post office and go to Stamps.com instead. There's no risk, and with my promo code MileHigher, you get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. And there's no long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click on that microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in MileHigher. That's Stamps.com, promo code MileHigher. With Stamps.com, you'll never have to go to the post office again.
So it was starting to look like Phoenix possibly could have had somewhat of a secret life going on, or at least a secret that her parents didn't know about. And knowing that she had a secret cell phone definitely makes...
Really confirms that.
Totally. So police confirmed that they looked at records for both phones and used them to track her movements the day that she disappeared. But that's all they'll say. There's a lot that they're still not putting out to the public as of right now.
Well, this case is still open and active. So I get why they're, keeping that close to them.
There's certain things.
Because it probably does provide quite a bit of information regarding, who the dealings that she had on that day, as well as location.
And a secret phone wasn't all that Phoenix was hiding. Some of her friends also knew that she had a secret boyfriend who they told police was named Mike B. And they assumed that she was using this secret second phone to call him. But records showed that she called Mike B from her family plan phone.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely makes this more confusing. They talked a lot in the days leading up to her disappearance, in fact. Even the day before she went missing, they talked 10 different times. And one call lasted 116 minutes. So you'd think that maybe Mike knows some things.
Yeah.
So he allegedly tells investigators that he hadn't talked to her that day. And later, he didn't remember what they had even talked about. So definitely gets on their radar immediately as someone's
it's a little,
possibly
little
sketchy.
weird. Can't remember what you talked about for 116 minutes.
Right? That's a lot of minutes. So on the day that she disappeared, she had a 6-minute phone call with Mike B at 9:41 a.m. and then a 1-minute call at 1:46 p.m. And this was the last call that she ever made from this phone. And Mike B was actually ruled out as a suspect. As far as the police concerned, he had absolutely nothing to do with Phoenix's disappearance.
And they're super confident about that too. They said like 100% pretty much that he had nothing to do with it, which is interesting.
But they won't really explain why or how they know this.
Exactly.
But what's strange is when her parents found out about him, they obviously wanted to talk to him themselves, but he never responded to them, which is weird.
Very weird.
They also found out that she had lived with Mike B in an apartment that they had rented for her. The apartment that she was staying in college, they were paying the bill on that. And apparently he was staying there too. But she kept it completely secret from them because he wasn't the kind of guy that they would approve of. But they definitely wouldn't have approved of her living with a man in general.
Right.
That was definitely against their kind of code of ethics. And Goldia was suspicious that maybe she did have a guy there, and she wanted to make sure that she didn't. So at times where she visited, she would snoop around the apartment, check the closets, look in the medicine cabinets, looking for any sign that a man lived there, maybe a razor blade, something like that, but found absolutely nothing. So she always thought that Phoenix was living alone there. She had no idea that she actually had this guy, Mike, staying there sometimes. Apparently, she was really skilled at hiding things. So eventually, when she moved back home, it wasn't because she wanted to. She definitely would have rather stayed in the apartment, but Goldia was paying for the apartment. And eventually she decided, it's time you come home, and said, we're done paying for this. And she couldn't afford it anymore. So she moved back in with them, which was not what, she was not happy about this.
No, and her parents kind of use the excuse like, oh, we live close enough to the university. Why do you need your own place then? You can just live at home for free. And
sounds familiar.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds very familiar.
So Goldia has said that she doesn't think that Mike B was actually involved in her daughter's disappearance, but she does believe that he possibly could have introduced Phoenix to, the wrong crowd. Goldia had taught her to make friends who were, quote, at her level while being nice to everyone. She told her daughter to let her mom and dad meet her friends and help decide if they should be a part of her inner circle. That's how controlled she was, to the point where they were picking and choosing who she should be friends with and kind of harping on people they didn't want her around.
Still trying to shelter her at 20 some years old. Like, that's going to drive any child away that's not interested in, following, in the same path that, her parents were following. So
yeah, she was not digging it. And one thing that I found was really odd when watching that Oxygen documentary, the series, was her mom said something, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of, my daughter was picking friends based on who looked like her, who had the same skin as her, versus looking at their heart and who they were.
Right.
Which I thought was just an odd thing to say. Like, she had no trust in her daughter's sense of judgment. Sorry, I'm like mixing my words here, but it doesn't seem like she felt like she was able to know who was right and who was wrong. She had like no faith in her daughter to decide who to be around.
Which to me, that kind of raises some red flags, because it makes me think that there was a trust between, trust issues between her and her parents for a long time. And that's, she likes to say and kind of like tell Phoenix's story as if, she was all about everything that they were doing in church and, following these strict rules and homeschooling when in actuality, I think it was quite the opposite. I think it was kind of like a tug of war with Phoenix and her parents. And, Phoenix was really wanting to be, quote unquote, a normal kid and go to school and, have normal friends and go to parties and things like that. And that's what she wanted. Yet her parents, were like, absolutely not. And like you said, we're just controlling her to the point where, she got to a point where she said, I don't want to, once I'm out of your house, I don't want to follow your rules anymore. And
I just don't understand the thinking behind that. Like, how long do these types of parents think they're going to be able to control who's in their child's life? Like, are you going to be, when they're 40 years old, saying who's a good friend and who's not?
Well, there's a lot of parents who even like, you always hear about people, oh, if I bring you home to my parents, I don't know what they're going to think.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people look for their parents' approval just to get married. You always see that in movies and stuff where they're like, well, if I'm going to get married to you, it really depends on what my dad thinks or what my mom thinks.
Which I think I get that more than the friend thing, though. Like controlling every single person she hung out with versus having an opinion on a boyfriend, I think is different. Obviously parents are going to have their thoughts on your partner, but to control every single friend, like how long were they thinking they were going to go on controlling her like this? And I think she felt just suffocated, that she couldn't even pick in, like her. Yeah. I mean, it's clear she felt the judgment. She felt stuck.
And unfortunately, it seems like this type of parenting ends up backfiring oftentimes on the parents.
Yeah.
A lot, I would say.
Well, isn't part of life to meet people? Sometimes you meet the wrong people and it's a lesson. I believe people come into your life and they're the wrong person and they teach you something and you grow from it.
Right. And you got to learn that. If you're just
trying to protect your kid from every single person out there, I mean, which I do get, and obviously.
Well, imagine, coming into that sort of situation in your 20s when you've never had to deal with, bad people before or, had any sort of, you've been so sheltered that you've never made any big mistakes or had any run-ins with people that all of a sudden you're in your 20s and, in this particular area that she was in and around that, it's very easy to bump into the wrong person. And if you're not prepared or have the knowledge and know how to distinguish, whether or not somebody is trustworthy or is, somebody you want to hang out with. I mean, that's a very scary situation for Phoenix to be in.
Yeah.
Because she really doesn't know what to look for or, if people are telling her the truth or not, because her parents have always been that filter for her, for the world.
Right.
And now, you would think that, oh, well, in her parents' eyes, all of this was to make her this warrior and give her this armor of God and, go out into the world and just like, bam, bam, block all of this, negativity and bad people away from her. When in actuality, there's a lot of snakes out there. And when the snakes come in and you're not used to dealing with the snakes, then you're going to have a much higher probability of falling victim to those snakes.
And I mean, we don't know if she even did fall victim to those snakes.
That's true.
That's true. I mean, we don't know if there even were any snakes necessarily. It sounds like Mike B was the main person that she was really talking to. I mean, 116-minute phone call and he's cleared. So also her parents think that this could have been some type of like breakup call. So, I mean, there's just no other information as far as, was there more people? Was the bad crowd around, as they say?
We don't really know.
So one thing that really stuck out to her mom after all this was going on was the last time that they went to church together. Phoenix said something to her mom that made Goldia feel like she was coming back to her and leaving behind whatever trouble she had gotten into and possibly this wrong crowd that she speaks of. She said that she specifically told her, and of course this is just from Goldia, but she said, "Mom, we need to get back to the way we used to be." And Goldia asked what she meant, and she said, "We just need to be more like what we used to be." Then apparently there was also a cryptic note that could have been written by Phoenix found in the SUV because it does match the handwriting in her notebooks from class. And it reads, well, we're not completely sure that this is what it reads. This is what Goldia thinks that it says after studying it because it was kind of hard to read. But it says, "We think you need to make up your mind before 2012, or else I will show you what I can do about your parents." It was dated December 18th.
One of the biggest questions in this case is, why was she in East St. Louis? This is very odd because this area and the people in this area are generally, there's a lot of crime. There's lots of drugs. There's lots of...
just dangerous.
Yeah. There's just lots of illegal activity going on.
And it wasn't a place that she ever hung out.
No. As far as her parents knew, that's for sure.
Right. As far as we all know.
So there's lots of opportunities that you could be hurt, killed, or even kidnapped. The other thing that definitely raises some suspicion is that both of her cell phones, her social media, and all her accounts just stopped when she went missing. So there's no clues about why she was in East St. Louis or what she was after. Another thing that came up was that one of her oldest friends, Tim Baker, had come over to visit Thanksgiving 2011 and got together with Phoenix. They had been close since the 5th grade. Tim had actually come out in high school and lost a lot of friends as a result of it, and Phoenix was always there for him. They actually hung out nearly every day after school. Tim knew about Mike B. and the fact that they had lived together, but during that visit, Phoenix talked about school like everything was normal. After she went missing, everyone found out she hadn't enrolled that semester. She was actually just pretending to go to school, which it's hard to imagine why such an accomplished student would go from the dean's list to dropping out in such a short period of time. Very, very weird. Her mom thought her daughter was experimenting with rap music and drugs.
Experimenting with rap music.
I mean, that's just how conservative, her parents are. And, and that could mean lots of different things. Could just mean she was, smoking a little weed or something.
So at this time, Phoenix had been living with her parents for about 7 months. And it seems like she was struggling with this a lot more than people knew. And there was even more to this double life she may have been living. Long before she had moved back in with her parents, Phoenix had found saving bonds in her mom's name in a safe in their house. And she stole these. She stole about $2,500 worth. And it seemed like she was saving them for something big. And she also found more than money in the safe. She found something more shocking. She had 2 birth certificates. One was for Phoenix Lucille Coldon. The other was for Phoenix Lucille Reeves. Reeves is Goldia's maiden name, and her father, Lawrence, wasn't even listed on that birth certificate. So she was very confused, and it seemed like Phoenix possibly could have been born out of wedlock, which obviously this is something that Goldia has been preaching against for years.
Yep.
Goldia was a single mom until she married Lawrence and changed their names. And then Lawrence adopted Phoenix. And she didn't know any of this before. So that was completely shocking.
So to just think about this for a second, you're raised by Goldia and all these rules and God first and all of that. And then all of a sudden you find out that your own mother was doing exactly what she was preaching you not to do.
The opposite of everything she had taught her.
I could see how that would be very upsetting for her and honestly piss you off to the point where maybe you wouldn't want anything to do with your parents anymore.
Yeah, maybe you would just leave.
Yeah.
So in 2018, Oxygen produced that 2-part documentary about Phoenix's case, and this was investigated by reporter Chandrea Thomas and retired Deputy Police Chief Joe D'Elia. And they discovered that there were only 4 women named Phoenix Reeves in the United States. One was deceased, 2 had long histories, but 1 had no past at all. And there was no date of birth or relatives or a social security number. The only record of this person ever existing was an address in Anchorage, Alaska, that was listed as a place of residence from January to June of 2012. So Joe, the guy in the documentary, traveled to Alaska and talked to the owner of the residence. She had lived there since 2002 and had never rented it out. And she didn't even recognize the name Phoenix and didn't know who anyone named Phoenix Reeves or Phoenix Coldon were.
Right. So clearly this was just a dead end and,
yeah,
it seemed like maybe there was more to it because of the name, but nobody recognized, her face or anything.
No,
like that,
I mean, he talked to neighbors too. No one knew who she was. So it just seemed like a dead end. But then they also found some strong evidence that something big could have been going on with Phoenix just before she vanished. They interviewed Akira Hogan, who lived across the street from Phoenix. They had been best friends since 2005 and told each other everything. She was really close with Akira. Akira said that Goldia was so strict that Phoenix wasn't even allowed to leave her porch.
Oh my God.
She thought Akira was a bad influence on her daughter as well.
Yeah. Like they literally kept her holed up inside the house pretty much.
Yeah. And Akira seems really nice too. She seemed like a great person.
Mm-hmm.
It's very odd. So Phoenix obviously hated being homeschooled. She wanted to go to prom. She wanted to be around kids her own age. She just wanted to stop being so controlled. And when her mom made her move home, they started fighting all the time because now she had gotten a taste of freedom. So that's even harder to go back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know how you go back.
No, I don't know either.
Especially when, you left a situation that was this strict.
Yeah. I mean, she even had to follow curfew and her mom would get like pissed if she didn't come back before curfew. Phoenix at this point seemed down to a lot of her friends, like all the time. She just wasn't acting like herself. Yeah. And then she also seemed paranoid.
Akira used the word depressed.
Yeah.
Phoenix seemed depressed, according to her.
Apparently, she told Akira that people were following her and watching her. And she said that someone was after her and that something was going to happen to her.
Which, I mean, people don't just say that.
No.
Why would anybody just say that for what? Attention? Like, clearly she felt like something was going to happen.
And this is her close friend. She has no reason to just make this up,
Right.
So apparently a week before Phoenix disappeared, she and Akira got in a huge fight. And she accused Akira of talking about her. She said that she was talking about her and her boyfriend. Akira denied it, but Phoenix was so angry that apparently she pulled out a knife and she kept it in the driver's side door of her SUV and even threatened Akira with it.
Wow.
Which was shocking to her. She felt like this made no sense. This was so unlike her friend. She was clearly paranoid. Something big was going on. So Phoenix told her she was going to be packing up her stuff and going away. And when Akira asked where she was going, she just said she was leaving. She said she didn't seem like herself, like something was clearly wrong. Something was happening with her in those weeks before she disappeared. When they had that altercation, she did end up putting the knife away. She luckily didn't do anything to her friend, and they kind of made up. But that was the last time that Akira even talked to Phoenix.
Yeah, that's a really hard way to, leave your best friend, like in that type of situation. Pulls a knife on you and then, she just disappears. Like, how do you even deal with that?
I don't know. So now we're going to be talking about that clip that we had mentioned in the beginning of the episode that we don't have access to, but we believe that this should be blasted everywhere for this case. So it's really sad that Oxygen has kind of put the clamp down on it, but it's a video selfie, or I guess a selfie video. I've never really heard it called that, but it's just kind of like a video diary almost. Like it seems like something maybe she would have posted to like followers, but it was just for her. It's weird. It confused me.
Yeah.
I thought at first maybe she had a YouTube channel, but no, this was just a video clip she made. And this was made a month before she disappeared.
Yeah, I want to say it was like November at some point. So yeah, roughly about a month before she just vanished.
Yeah. And in this video, guys, she looks really upset. Like you can tell. Depressed is probably the right word for it. And scared. She looks very concerned. She started the video saying that she got ditched, and this is ridiculous. Some of the video is hard to understand, but a lot of what she said was very telling. Here's a quote from it. She said, "I just want to start over. I just feel like I can't start the new me over." She also did her own version of the Serenity Prayer and said, "Lord, please help me accept the things that won't change and that I won't change the things that I can't change." She also said, "I just want to be happy, man. I can't remember a time when I was happy, genuinely happy. I feel so stupid because I let myself go a little bit. I probably would have been in a better situation if I would have stuck with how it used to be. Might as well ride in the back with the cops all up in here. The only person that won't let me down is me." So clearly she's at a very dark and almost desperate point, it seems.
When I watch this and, hear these things that she says, the thing that jumps out to me, or the statement that she makes that jumps out to me, is might as well ride in the back with all the cops up in here. So the only time you would think, you would say something like that with the cops all up in here is if you were maybe trying to avoid being caught after committing a crime. And might as well ride in the back. If you're going to ride in the back, I mean, if she's driving this vehicle by herself, riding in the back doesn't make sense. She wouldn't say ride in the back. So that implies that somebody is driving the vehicle. So my first thought is, potentially she is maybe working for a pimp or something in some type of prostitution operation. And, she's been doing that for whatever reason. And now she's worried that, she's going to get caught by the police.
Yeah, of course, that's a possibility. But it also could have been drug related, or she just got herself into something in her life. Maybe she got pregnant outside of marriage, for all we know. And she felt like she couldn't go home and tell them. It could have been so many different things. But one thing that's clear is she says, the only person that won't let me down is me. She's had fights with her parents, especially her mom, now her close friend Akira. And who knows, it sounds like she may have even been fighting with Mike B. We don't know if there was a breakup going on there or not, but she clearly couldn't trust anybody. Yeah. And she must have felt like there was some type of trouble that someone else had got her in. So I think her mom's idea of her possibly being with the wrong crowd does make a lot of sense. Yeah.
And Akira was actually shown the selfie video in the Oxygen series. And after watching it, Akira was like tearing up, and because, Phoenix just looks so depressed and clearly, in a really bad spot. Mm-hmm. According to Kira, she thought it was likely that Phoenix had left on her own, but perhaps someone else was keeping her from coming back, which to me seems possible. Like a very good assumption to make. Because why not go and at least tell your parents that you're alive? It kind of goes back to that cryptic note that was found of, figure out what we need to do about your parents. Before 2012 or whatever. So to me, that seems like she is probably being held against her will to some extent. And that, maybe they've threatened her, we're going to go after your parents if you try to go return to them. It clearly seems like she's gotten wrapped up in some type of shady business. So there's some other interesting things about Phoenix's potential secret double life that we'll get into. But before we do that, we're going to take our last ad break and we'll be right back.
So everyone has different skin goals, right? Whether you are trying to take control of acne or acne is no longer your top skin concern. Maybe you're more worried about fine lines, dark spots, occasional breakouts, or clogged pores. Well, Curology can customize a prescription formula with 3 active ingredients that are picked just for you to tackle your unique skincare needs. And it's so easy, which is why I love it. To get your treatment plan, all you got to do is start by answering some questions online about your skin and sending in a couple selfies to Curology. And then Curology will match you with a licensed dermatology provider who gets to know your skin. And if it's a good fit, you'll get a customized prescription cream to address your acne, fine lines, dark spots, and more. Certain things you just can't get at the store when it comes to skincare. So this makes it way easier to get your hands on some better skincare ingredients. Since I've started using my custom cream, I feel like my skin looks better than ever. Right now, I don't think I have a single breakout. My skin hasn't been this good in at least 2 years. It's never been easier to take control of your acne, dark spots, breakouts, or whatever your unique concerns may be with a powerful skincare treatment made just for you by Curology today. All you got to do is go to Curology.com/milehigher for a free 30-day trial. All you have to do is pay shipping and handling. That's Curology, Curology.com/milehigher to unlock your free 30-day trial. See Curology.com for all the details.
You shouldn't need a PhD to figure out what's in your cat's food. That's why Cat Person makes it easy to keep your cat healthy and happy, and without complicated names or confusing labels, just high quality, high protein meals made for cats and the people who love them. Cat Person is a protein packed and only uses wholesome ingredients. The food is grain free and low carb, so there's no room for the unnecessary fillers you find in many other brands. Cat Person delivers delicious, nutritious, and high quality cat food right to your door, so you'll never have to run out and have to settle for what the store has. Meal plans are fully customized for your cat and perfect for cats of all ages. There are 16 easy to serve wet foods and 3 different dry foods, so you'll be sure to find the combinations your cat will love. My cat loves the chicken shreds, and it's so delicious for them, and they absolutely can't get enough of it. In fact, they come and beg me for it every single night, so I think I found their new favorite food. And best of all, Cat Person always ships free with any meal plan. Cat Person knows switching your cat's food to something new can be daunting. That's why they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee on your custom plan. My cats just seem overall happier and healthier since I've switched them to Cat Person. So you and your cat are going to love Cat Person as much as we do. Go to catperson.com/milehigher and use code milehigher to save $5 off your starter box with free shipping. Your starter box includes 10 cups of wet food, 1 bag of dry food, and an entire set of serving spoons, silicone lids, and a scooper. That's catperson.com/milehigher. Make sure you use code milehigher for $5 off your starter box with free shipping. Again, that's catperson.com/milehire, and make sure you use code milehire. So in the series, they revealed some more information about her double life. It turns out that Phoenix had wanted to leave Mike be, but she didn't know how. So she started seeing other guys behind his back. And one of these guys was another guy named Mike, and he worked at a phone store and gave her discounts. The second phone wasn't to talk to Mike B, it was actually to talk to this new Mike, cell phone Mike. They also found out that this cell phone Mike had a restraining order that was placed against him by one of his exes. And they actually went and talked to this ex, and she was only willing to be on camera if she could remain anonymous.
Probably scared of him.
Yeah. And according to her, she and Mike met in 2010 and dated for about a year and a half. And according to her, he was possessive and controlling, and he would slam her against doors or onto the ground. And at the time, she was about 25 years old and didn't even realize she was in an abusive relationship. But over the holidays in 2011, this Mike got obsessed with the missing person case of Phoenix Coldon. He said he was only interested in the case because he was studying psychology, but he eventually admitted he knew her and that she was a customer at his store. And during an argument that they had, he admitted that he had actually slept with Phoenix. And obviously she was very upset by this news, and he proceeded to tell her, quote, "Why are you worried about someone that's dead?" And, they kind of asked her, well, do you know if he meant this literally or what was the deal with this? And she said she wasn't sure if he was assuming she was dead or if he really knew something. But that's a pretty bold statement.
It is.
And it could be that he just said that because he was just trying to, get out of this argument with her and be like, well, why are you worried about somebody that's no longer around? Like, I'm not going to cheat on you again with her because she's dead, which is very weird and a very sketchy thing to do. But in March 2012, Goldia revealed more information about the last time she saw Phoenix. While Phoenix was sitting in her SUV, a green sedan pulled in behind her, and a black male with dreadlocks and a skull cap got out of the sedan and then got into the SUV with Phoenix. Other people waited in the sedan while they talked. Now, this could have been cell phone Mike or some other guy that she was seeing, but we really won't ever know. And then in April, Goldia said she hadn't heard from the police about the investigation in over 2 months. So her parents started investigating on their own. And they actually went and visited strip clubs, went into dangerous neighborhoods, and talked to local sex workers in order to try to find out where Phoenix was. Which, God, it's kind of hard to picture Lawrence and Goldia going to strip clubs and everywhere else. But I mean, I guess you do anything you can to try to find your loved one. But
desperate.
Yeah. They went and passed out thousands of flyers and spent most of their savings hiring private investigators because the police just really weren't doing anything. The case wasn't moving. They weren't even getting updates from them for long periods of time. But in April 2012, her parents got a call from a man who claimed he knew where Phoenix was. And this man was so convincing with the details that Goldia and Lawrence spent $50,000, which was the last of their savings, in order to send private investigators to Texas to go and talk to this man. But when they got there, the man admitted he made the whole thing up and he was just looking for attention. And what's crazy is that no charges were ever filed against him.
Can you believe that?
I can't believe that, honestly. Like,
absolutely nothing.
That's so sad. And this made it so that Goldia and Lawrence couldn't pay their mortgage and their home was foreclosed on.
That's
as a result.
Terrible. And this kind of thing happens to families a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Phoenix's parents believe her case hasn't been taken seriously by the media or the police because of her race. And there's a great clip about Lawrence, explaining, this whole concept and him having to take an active role in the investigation because the police really weren't doing much of anything.
Got to be your own advocate, basically.
Or the media, for that fact.
Yep.
There was not much done. We were doing everything. We were printing up flyers and going around passing out flyers in different areas of the city and in East St. Louis and so forth. There seemed to not be any more clues for the police to run down, so investigation seemed to just stop.
When Phoenix went missing, there wasn't even local news coverage, or a lot of it. In fact, Chandra was one of the only journalists or reporters out there that actually talked about her case on air. And it was just very difficult to even get that airtime. What's crazy is that even her neighbors didn't hear anything about it, and her friends learned the details of the case through social media. The local Fox station, which Chandra was an anchor at, eventually covered it until 2014. And she even said in the series that it's extremely hard to get news coverage for missing person cases in general, and it's nearly impossible when it's a woman of color. Some people believe that Goldia has been adamant that Phoenix never did anything wrong, so she doesn't start getting ignored by the media. She has to make her daughter seem perfect in order to make people care about her, which, I mean, that's just an assumption people are making. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I kind of see the thinking behind it. That, you know, and we've seen from other cases that if you're somebody that goes missing that is involved in crime or, you know, involved with sketchy people or kind of goes down the wrong path, that all of a sudden law enforcement's just not going to care about you, and they're not going to try to find, you know, look as hard as they might for somebody who's like an upstanding citizen, upstanding person in society, which I think there's truth to that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
With that being said, let's go ahead and get into some of the theories about what may have actually happened to her. You know, is Phoenix Coldon still out there? So the biggest theory, and probably the most popular theory, I guess you could say, is that Phoenix Coldon got involved with either just sex work, some type of prostitution ring, or is a victim of sex trafficking or human trafficking. And this is a very real problem, especially in the East St. Louis area.
Yeah, it's well known in that area, so that makes it more likely, of course.
I mean, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. Some women are lured into sex trafficking by a pimp, and they take advantage of vulnerable, naive women by showering them with attention and gifts. Or they trick them into coming into another city by promising a lucrative modeling contract or record deal. And I mean, there's so many methods and ways that they you know, lure women into sex trafficking. But this seems like a very popular way that they do it, in a very effective way.
And it could make sense with what she was saying about starting a new life. Maybe she was promised some type of new life by this person, you know, like you said, attention, gifts, and possibly a modeling contract.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be hard to see that happening?
Maybe she thought that's how she would, I don't know, but I have trouble because that whole video really made you think that she had done something or was like worried about people finding out about some type of secret and like knew she would have to leave because of that. That's why I get so stuck on this one, because obviously there's a huge possibility she was human trafficked. It's so common. But I think if you just rule that out too soon, which the police tend to sometimes give up on those cases, like they won't put as much resources because they feel like it's going to be harder to solve. So I just don't want to like jump to the conclusion that that is definitely what happened, because I think there's a lot of other possibilities.
Yeah, there is.
If we had more information, I mean, yeah.
I mean, it seems like her car. So you have to go back to like look at the evidence. If you look at the circumstances surrounding her disappearance, all signs seem to point to sex trafficking, and even a former sex trafficking victim took a look at this case and look at her story, and she said that this has the telltale signs of some type of human trafficking, sex trafficking, abduction.
And it very well could be. It very well could be. I'm just saying there's also a possibility maybe this was something planned. She has these secret phones. Is it possible that it was staged to look like she just kind of was uprooted from her life, but it was all a plan and she meant to leave those things?
Maybe, but most people that are going to leave on their own accord take personal items with them. That's just a fact. That's a statistic.
Most people, but unless she's working with someone or being controlled by someone who is telling her not to take those things and is giving her a very specific way, because that note also said, if you still are having issues with your parents, you know, by so-and-so time, we'll tell you how to deal with it.
So who are those people, and what are the motives behind that then?
I don't know.
That she's just going to go live a perfectly normal life somewhere else, and this is how she does it?
I mean, people do this. That's the thing, is people do this.
Disappear and start
new lives. Not all
the
time, but it happens. Yeah.
So
people leave if they don't want to be around their friends and family anymore. Or she was losing trust with a lot of people. She could have been breaking up with this guy, Mike. Maybe she didn't want to be around these people. Maybe she really didn't feel like she could trust anyone. That's her words. People do this. Like it's way more common than you think that people will feel overwhelmed in their life and just want a fresh start. And she literally said, I want to start again. So it just makes me a little hesitant to think that she was just kind of plucked out when it seems like it was something that was planned for a while and that she possibly could have chosen to go along with. Maybe not in her right state of mind, of course.
But on the flip side, she could have 100% been lured by somebody.
Yes, of course. I'm saying
something.
Yes, I'm just saying there's definitely room for both possibilities here.
And then once they isolate her, they're able to, do what they want.
It's very likely she could be participating and agreeing to things, but also being controlled at the same time and in a manipulative situation.
That's true. And, to your point, she has been seen by a number of different people.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Hargrove, a friend of the family, claimed he saw Phoenix twice in downtown St. Louis about 2 years after she went missing.
Wow.
One of Phoenix's friends from church, Kelly Frunhert, believes she saw her in March 2014 on a flight from Las Vegas to St. Louis. She was actually seated on the flight and a group of women were boarding, and it was a group of 4 or 5 attractive young black women, all well-dressed, wearing expensive jewelry. They were also accompanied by 2 well-dressed men, about 35 to 40 years old, who looked like pro football players to her.
It sounds like some type of pimping situation.
It does. Right? It does. And when Kelly looked up, she saw a woman who looked just like Phoenix. And she actually said, "Phoenix?" And the woman immediately turned and looked at her. And she said, "Oh, do I look like someone?" And then she just kept walking. So, I mean...
It's like, yeah, you never know. But, I mean, this does happen. And people... Which, at that point, you're like...
Yeah.
Would she be being held there?
Maybe. I mean, Kelly actually went to the Southwest counter after they landed and was like, "Hey, I saw a missing person. I saw Phoenix Coldon on the plane." And the police actually, according to her, did an entire search of the airport, but no one could find this woman that she thought was Phoenix.
And this is really interesting. I wanted to share this, something I read earlier. If you do notice someone that looks like someone from a missing person's flyer, or someone that you think you may know, like in this situation, you think there could be human trafficking going on your flight, you just tell a flight attendant and they will have law enforcement on the ground by the time you land.
That's a good point.
And that way they can confirm, because if they are being controlled,
right, they're likely not going to raise the alarm themselves. Oftentimes, victims in this case don't go and, at that, especially after years of being missing.
Yeah.
So this is also kind of interesting. Goldia has said her daughter had expensive taste, so she could have been well dressed because someone was paying her good money or because she was being pimped out. Women aren't always sold into sex trafficking. Sometimes they're tricked into sex work and just can't get out. And
obviously she was in kind of a desperate situation because she wanted to be financially free, because that is going to give her that freedom from her parents who are controlling her every move. So she is that type of person that could have been preyed upon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she would have wanted the financial freedom and to take things into her own hands.
It's the perfect target for a pimp, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, to basically make her disappear and, keep her disoriented and distracted until she's broken dependent on them to survive. Right. My thought with this whole theory of, being a sex worker or in sex trafficking is that I think, my original thought from that video was that this is in fact what she had been doing. And, to me, it just looked like, and what it felt like was there's just so much shame there. Like she knew that at that point, it'd be very hard to go back to her old life and return to her parents, because she's probably done a lot of things that her parents obviously wouldn't approve of, but she just feels very shameful about. And so she's like, well, at this point, I might as well just, kind of commit to it and keep it
may
going.
Have felt like she just had no other choice.
Yeah, or there was no other choice, and maybe they were forcibly keeping her there. Another theory is that maybe, like you're saying, she just wanted to disappear. On January 12, 2012, Goldia got a call from a woman in the middle of the night, but investigators didn't think it was Phoenix. They believed it was just a prank call. So, we may never know, but maybe Phoenix chose to disappear, was just trying to let her mom know she was okay, because that does happen too, where missing people just randomly contact their parents in weird ways like this to let them know that they're okay. The private investigator they hired believes she cashed in the savings bonds and used that money to run away. She could have even used the birth certificate to leave the country and assume a new identity.
Very well could have.
I think one of the biggest pieces of evidence for the she wanted to disappear theory is the fact that she was just in this suffocating, controlling household for so many years and, living this certain type of way that her parents wanted her to live. And she just kind of had enough of it. And she knew that there is no changing her parents. There's no getting around the fact that her mom is going to continue to try to control her life. And so she's just like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm ready to just leave altogether.
Live my own life, be the boss of my own life. Plus, she has this new birth certificate she found, which could have allowed her to leave the country and start just completely over. And it's like, I don't want to just say, because personally, if I were going to say my opinion, that's where I lean most, is that she left. And that video of her is what makes me feel most confident about that. But I'm obviously I don't want to be quick to just say that that's what happened, because there's totally a possibility there was a controlling person, another aspect to this that we just don't know.
Right.
That would make a lot of sense. But yeah, she definitely could have just left. And it leaves you at the end of the day wondering, is she seriously just out there? Does she know people are making content, that there's a series? And I think what's hard for people to wrap their mind around is like, why would someone let their family and friends go through that? Why would they let all these resources? But it's like, if you committed to starting a new life, you're not going to come back for nothing. No Oxygen series. If she made that decision, that was clearly, she got to a point where that was the only choice. And it was a final choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't know. I mean, she could still be out there, or she may not even be alive anymore.
Yeah, I know.
There's no way to know.
There's not. Well, what's interesting is that when her parents watched that selfie video, they believed that she was talking about getting away from, some friends or from a boyfriend, and not from them. Like,
and that's possible.
They interpret that as she's not trying to get away from them, but somebody else, and she's being forced to be there or stay with that person. So that's why they're continuing to believe that this is foul play.
I mean, they should, until they have reason not to believe that. I would do the same thing if I were in their shoes. You got to rule out every possibility.
Well, and in these types of situations, because she's, of age, that if the police do finally track her down and she's like, I know I'm missing, but I'm not trying to be found, then the police are obligated to not tell they don't have to tell the family that they can tell the family, we know that she's alive, she's okay, but we can't tell you. How crazy and how frustrating would that and sad would that be for her parents to find out that she just doesn't want to be with them? Like, that would be really tough, especially for her parents, I feel like.
To know that she's out there and she just doesn't want anything to do with them. But of course, she may not be out there.
Do you think that there could be, mental illness here? Like this could be a case of maybe she has like schizophrenia or some other type of mental illness, delusions, paranoia.
She seemed to have a lot of paranoia, but it also seemed like there was a reason for those things. But that's obviously possible. It's right around that age that you start to experience symptoms in early adulthood of that, if you have it. So
it's possible, but I feel like it's kind of unlikely, because it doesn't seem like there's no evidence to support that she's like on on heavy drugs that are causing her just to roam around the country, not knowing who she is or something. It seems like it's really not that at all.
Well, I hope the police just continue I hope they treat it with urgency still, even if they do believe there's a chance she could have left, because it's just a chance. That's all it is,
Well, some people out there think that she's just no longer alive at this point. I mean, it's
possible,
been, 6+ years. And nothing from her at all. And what's interesting is that there's a possibility that she could have been abducted and murdered for some reason. And actually there was another case around the same time that had a lot of similarities to this one. A woman named Stacy English was reported missing from Atlanta, Georgia on December 27th, 2011. And her car was also found abandoned and then impounded just hours after she disappeared. And her family wasn't notified that it was found, and investigators didn't connect the vehicle to Stacy until January 5th, 2012, which is very interesting. And the last person to see her alive was a man named Robert Kirk, who was a concert promoter visiting from St. Louis. He was a suspect, but the police cleared him. But days later, Stacy's body was discovered in a heavily wooded area close to where her car was found, and her cause of death was hypothermia and exposure. That's weird. That's really weird.
That is.
So, same kind of time frame, obviously different area, different state, but definitely odd. I mean, I think all signs point to her still being out there. I really do. I think she's still out there. I think she's,
I mean, what do we know, right? But
Right,
it's kind of what I feel in my gut too.
yeah.
Like something just tells me she's
Because I mean,
out there. Whether she wants to stay hidden or she's being controlled is really the question.
yeah, it really, because it's like, you know, if you end up murdered, I mean, obviously there's people that are never found when they're murdered, but a lot of times you end up finding something, or there would be some more leads that would lead to that conclusion, but there's just really nothing that leads us to that conclusion at all. There's no evidence whatsoever.
You know, maybe finding that extra birth certificate and finding out the truth about her mother, who had put such high standards on her whole life, just completely broke her, like made her question everything when, you know, your own, especially like things like about your birth certificate, like finding stuff like that has got to be so just shocking and traumatizing that it could make you want to just
I
leave.
Honestly, like, and this is why I said that I connect with this case so much, because that's kind of what I did in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get into my whole life story right now because it's a long one, but
And it has a happy ending.
it does have a happy ending. I love my parents, and you know, we're in a good place now, but like it came to a head where I just left, and I was at that point.
Came to my basement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily I had you, so I had somewhere to go, but like, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have anybody to go to or anywhere to go. Like, you know, would I do the same thing too? Would I think about maybe just like disappearing?
You were desperate back then.
I was so, I felt like I was controlled and just absolutely, you know, ruled by my parents and their religious, belief system and, you know, parenting, that I was just like, I was 18 too. So as soon as I was 18, I was like, I'm out. And, you know, if I had had you, maybe I would have just up and left and tried to disappear. I mean,
especially if you had found some stuff like this, found another birth certificate, and all these lies were coming out. I mean,
and they were literally like forcing you to do all this stuff, yet they didn't even follow it themselves. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that feels like whether they meant to or not, it seems to be a little hypocritical. And I could see how Phoenix would be like, my parents are hypocrites. My whole life they were raising me to follow these like guidelines of religion and, you know, follow these rules and not do, quote, bad things. And then she figures out the truth about, you know, these birth certificates. And it's like, what? So I could totally see how that'd be like, what's even the point?
Yeah.
Like, what hypocrites are my parents? You know,
and to feel like you've been lied to your whole life.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's a big one.
Pissed.
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
I'd be so mad, especially about your birth and like your birth certificate. It's just, I think there's a possibility she was just really mad.
Yeah.
But then again, the paranoia and stuff, she was scared. I mean,
she said something about cops in there too.
She did.
So that indicates that something is up.
Man, this one's a real mystery. We definitely want to know what you guys think. So leave any theories that you have or what you think happened below.
Yeah, the parents still think that she's out there. I mean, they still run a Facebook page, which we'll link below. They still have a fundraiser going to raise money for private investigators. And if anyone out there has any information or tips about her case or Phoenix's whereabouts, you can contact the St. Louis Police Department at 314-615-5400.
And our hearts, you know, truly go out to her parents, as difficult as it has been to sit here today and kind of judge their family and the way they've parented and stuff. It's important to the case. But at the end of the day, I think what you said in the beginning of the show, that these things come out of good intentions most of the time, you'd hope.
Yeah.
And that it comes out of fear too. They wanted to protect their daughter, and it seems like it's kind of backfired.
Well, especially sad. Knowing the true background of her mom, like maybe her mom was like, I had a rougher life and I don't want to lead that on to my kids. So I'm going to try and like really lock it up. And
from this day forward,
from
we're
this
going to
day
be
forward,
this way.
Exactly. Type of thing, you know?
I mean, they clearly wanted what's best for her. They clearly love her, right? We all can agree.
Yes.
They love her.
Absolutely.
And that's like why I think it is important to keep looking, and, you know, at least, because I think even if they found out that she was alive and well, I think that would be they could sleep a lot easier at night knowing that their daughter's still alive.
Definitely.
And it could help them, you know, kind of reconcile everything.
Wouldn't be easy, but it would be easier.
No, but ultimately it could lead to a very positive outcome. I mean, maybe down the road, but at the same time, maybe
it's wishful thinking.
It is. But at least they would know that she's alive and that she wasn't murdered. She's not, being harmed or something like that. I mean, any parent would take that over, anything, I feel like. So yeah, this one's just an absolute wild mystery. And,
it is.
Hopefully there'll be more one day or, maybe not. So
yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like there should be, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it seems like the police are hanging on to some stuff too. So maybe they'll release things.
I think the police know more than they've let on or released that.
I want to know how they ruled out Mike B.
Yeah. I think the Mikes know more information possibly about who she was with or around and associated with, that the police are still investigating and trying to chase down new leads that come in. But yeah.
So maybe we'll look back at this case again in a few years.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be some updates.
You never know. So let us know what you guys think about this one for sure. Yeah. Definitely want to know your thoughts. And yeah, hopefully you found this episode of the Mile Heart Podcast interesting. If you did, make sure you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. But that is it for us today. Yep. And until next time,
take your mind a mile higher.